Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to talk to you about ChatGPT. I think you have heard a lot about this, and it's very important to think about ChatGPT from a unique perspective. I'm a qualitative researcher and also qualitative methodology expert at the Center for Research Methods Consulting. I've been using ChatGPT for months, and I've been thinking about how to use this AI tool in an ethical and responsible manner. So I'm going to really share with you some basic information about ChatGPT. My next video will be going into detail how to use this software for your research. But this presentation will be focused on giving you an introduction to ChatGPT in a very unique way from a qualitative researcher is very important because I want to make sure that we are using this tool in an ethical way and a responsible manner. And that's what I'm going to really focus on. And if you have any question, you can put it in the comments and I'll be happy to address them for you. And also you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and I'll be providing more information about how to use it in your research so that you can use it in a very effective and also ethical manner. So in this presentation, I'm going to focus on 4 things. Basic understanding about ChatGPT. I'm also going to talk about the limitations of ChatGPT and how I see ChatGPT. And I will end this presentation by talking about our role in an AI world. As researchers, we have to be aware about the AI tools and see how they can help us to do our research. And that's what I'm going to really talk about today. Whenever you hear ChatGPT, there are 3 things that you have to think about. The first one is pre-trained. So this means that the system has been fed with a lot of information from the internet and has learned the information in terms of the patterns of language and also how words are related, so that the system can predict the next word. The essence of feeding the AI system with a lot of information is to help the system to learn the relationship between words so that it can predict the next word. And I'm going to also demonstrate how it's done when I finish talking about the 3 things. The second thing that you have to think about is randomness. The system is not only trained to predict the next word, but randomly predict the next word. That's why when you ask ChatGPT the same question or you put in the same prompt, you get different responses, right? The responses might be the same in terms of the meaning, but the kinds of words or structure might be very different. Why? Because they put in a way that the system can randomly predict the next word. And I'm going to also show you how it looks like, how the behind the scene concerning how they set up the randomness. That would be very helpful for you. The next thing that you have to think about is that they have also trained the system such a way that you'll be able to have conversation with it. So you can ask questions the same way that you can ask participant question when you're doing research and get a response, right? How do they do that? We call it reinforcement learning with human feedback. So this means that when they ask the system questions and the system present an output, the user can provide feedback so that the system will learn from the feedback so that as time goes on, the system can provide a very acceptable output. So it's more of like continuous learning, right? As you provide feedback, you receive a very good response. I've talked about 3 things. So whenever you think about ChatGPT, you have to think about the issue of pre-trained. The system will be giving a lot of information to learn patterns in language and also relationship between words so that it can predict the next word. And there's also an aspect of randomness. The system have been made such a way that it acts like how humans speak or respond to issues. You ask questions, you ask the same question, you may get different response, right? But the meaning might be the same. The last one is the issue of mimicking human conversation. They have been trained such a way that the system learn from how you communicate with it. I want to demonstrate this one to you so that you understand. So when you go to OpenAI and when you log on, if you have an account, you'll be given three options, right? So that you can go to ChatGPT, you can go to Delhi, you can go to API. So the API platform is a place where they have all the models that has been developed by OpenAI so that developers can go there and try some of the models and use them to build a specific AI agent, right, to work more on the model. It's also good for researchers to go there and also interact with the model and see how it can be best helpful for them. So I had the opportunity to get access to the platform. So when you go there, click on Playground, you might not be able to get access to it. You don't have to worry about it. We'll go back to ChatGPT, but I just want to show you the characteristics of ChatGPT. When you go there, so let me try to set things up here for you to see what I'm talking about. So when you click here and you type qualitative research right, and then you click on submit. So you see that the system will predict the next word, right? I stop at is, and then the system predicted the next one. So when you click on one of the words, you can see that the system has looked at potential words that can come after a, right? So it can be qualitative research is a type. You can say qualitative is a research. Qualitative is the method. Qualitative is a form. Qualitative is a scientific, right? So you can see that based on what the system has been fed with, it has identified top 5 or 6. This one is 5, sometimes 6. Top 5 words that can come after the word that has been provided. And then the system choose from that word, right? So any of these words can come after a, but the system chose research, right? Now that you understand this one, so you can see that when you go here, the system chose greater, the system chose understanding, right? So you see how you put in a request or a prompt and the system can complete the task for you, right? By predicting the next word. First, it will go through all the information it has, right? And choose the top 5 or 6 words that can come after the word that you have provided. And then it will randomly choose a word from that place. So when I ask the same question again, you see the response. Qualitative research is, and then when I type here, you see that it has given the different kind of words. I was talking to you about the randomness, right? After is, here is a, here, but here the next word was often, right? So you see the randomness I'm talking about. Let's go to ChatGPT. Let me show you. So when you ask ChatGPT that, okay, what is qualitative research? And you enter, you can see that it brought this information to you. Let me click a new chat again and ask the same question. What is qualitative research? And I click here. So you see, so let's compare this one to the one that we just did. So the first one is what is qualitative research? So when you go up here, it says qualitative research is a methodological approach used in various disciplines to explore and understand complex phenomena and subjective experience, right? And when you click on the one that we just did, qualitative research is a method that aims to understand and interpret social phenomena through the exploration of individuals' experience, perspective, and meanings. So you see how they might be saying the same thing, but they're using different words, right? So the issue of randomness comes in. And I think it's also a way of, as I said, mimicking the way human beings speak. When you ask maybe somebody what is qualitative research, right? The person might define it, and then maybe in 3 minutes or 5 minutes time, if the person hasn't memorized the definition, when you ask the person again, the person can give you the definition, but the choice of words might be very different, right? So you see that AI is trying to mimic the way that we communicate. And it's obvious because AI has been fed with a lot of information from the internet, right? So the AI has learned how words are used and in what context, the patterns and the relationship between words. That's why AI can construct a sentence that is quite similar to the way that we communicate. So let's go back here. So I was talking about randomness, right? When you look at this platform, which is the playground platform, you may not get access to this platform, but I just want to use this one to demonstrate the randomness. When you go up here, you see temperature, right? So this one helps you to control the randomness. So if you want the response to be less random, you can bring the temperature to maybe 0. So this means that when you ask a question and you ask the same question again, there's more likely that you can get the same kind of word construction, right? And then when you bring it to the middle, you are telling the system that you can be random, but you don't want to be too random, right? So this one is no randomness, moderately random, and then highly random when you bring it to the next one. So the 0, and you can bring it to the 1 point, and then you can bring it to here. For ChatGPT, it has been set around 1. This means that OpenAI company has already set the randomness, the temperature, to around 1. So this means that when you ask the system a question and it asks the same question again, you can get different kind of words, but the meaning might be the same, right? So let me show you if there's a little randomness or there's no randomness. And let me ask the system the same question again, right? And then let me ask the same question. Let me see, let me copy this one and paste it here and then click on next. So you see that it's not totally the same, but I think there's so much similarity in terms of the choice of words, right? This one is 86% more likely to follow off. This one is 99% more likely to follow reasons. And you can see that the system has chosen the word that is more likely to follow. The system did not randomly choose from these ones, right? Because we set the temperature to 0. When we set a temperature close to 1, right? And then we ask the same question again, qualitative research is. So here you can see that there's a lot of randomness. You can also see here that this one is 29%. We have the 28%. The system didn't choose that. You see here is 1%. The system didn't choose the highest. So you see that when you reduce the temperature or the randomness, the system chooses the top word that can follow the word that you have provided. But when you increase the randomness, right, it chooses from the top 5 or 6 words, right? But when you make the randomness like 2, this is where the results might not really make sense, right? So let me give you an example. So when we type here, qualitative research is, so you see here that when you increase the temperature to 2, which is the highest level, the information that will be provided here might not make good sense. If you increase the temperature, the information that will come may not make sense. That's why for ChatGPT, the company has make the temperature around 1 so that the information will make sense. And they didn't make it to be around 0 because this means that when you ask a question, that's more likely for you to get the same word construction. They want the system to provide random responses. So that's why the temperature is 1. You shouldn't worry about this one because when you're using ChatGPT, the temperature has already been set. But I just want to give you a background information so that you understand what happened behind the scene. Because as a qualitative researcher, you always have to know the kind of tools that you are using so that you can use it well. So that's why I'm explaining this one to you. If you don't really understand it well, don't worry. But the most important thing that you have to understand is that the system has been programmed such a way that it can randomly predict the next word. That's what you have to know. So that's all about these three things that you have to know. So let me close it and go back to our PowerPoint. So now you know about the three things that you have to know concerning ChatGPT. Another thing that is very important to note is that the software or the AI tool is not perfect. It has limitations. You have to be responsible as a qualitative researcher. Any tool that you are using, whether it's a research approach that you are using or research strategy that you are using, you have to know the strengths and limitations. And now that we have learned about the background information about ChatGPT, you also have to know the limitations so that you can use it in a responsible manner. One limitation is that the system is learning from the information that has been fed, right? So if the information that has been fed is biased, it will affect the output. The same way when you are working with participants, right? When you interview them, their background, their preconceived ideas inform or affect how they narrate the experience with you, right? It's the same way about the AI tool. It's not an objective tool because the output that the system gives you is based on the input, what it has been fed, right? If it has been fed with information that is biased. So let's say you are looking into immigration and then it has been fed with information about people who have negative perception about immigration, right? There's high probability that the system will give you negative information or biased information about immigration because it has been fed with biased information, right? So you always have to be aware that the system can give you a biased information. So you have to be very aware. So what do you have to do? The most important thing, this is where you apply your qualitative principle, triangulation, right? You can use more than one AI tool and ask the tools the same question and see their responses. And when you see their responses, you can compare and contrast. That will help you to make informed decisions. So don't depend on only one AI tool. And the second one is that you can also compare the output with maybe books or resources that are online or resources that are around to see whether that information is credible or not. The most important is that don't over depend on the output the AI tool will give you. And second one that you have to think about is that it can confidently give you wrong information. When you go back to ChatGPT, you see down here, they say that ChatGPT may provide inaccurate information about people, place, or fact, right? The AI company has already provided you a disclaimer here that the system can give you wrong information. So you have to be very careful when you are using this. You have to use it in a very responsible manner. This means that when you ask the system a question, the system can confidently give you a wrong answer. When you get access to my PowerPoint, you can click on this link and get more information about what I'm presenting. So I'll put a link in the description area so that you can click on it and get access to this PowerPoint. The last one is that we are not totally clear about how the system makes their decision. We are not totally clear. Although we have some basic understanding that according to OpenAI, they fed a model with a lot of information online, and then they made it such a way that it can randomly predict the next word. And lastly, they train the system, which is called reinforcement learning with human feedback, so that you can be able to interact with the system in a conversational manner, like the way that we communicate with our participants or expert. But still, there's a black box. I don't know how the system can create a table for me when I give the system a command that it should review a transcript and provide themes and provide quotes from participants and connect to the theme. And the system can provide a table for you. I don't know the decision the system make. So there's a lot of things that we don't know. But the good thing is that as time goes on, as we ask them questions, as we ask the developers more questions, we may get some answers. As we even ask the software, you can ask ChatGPT, how did you come up with this output? And maybe that ChatGPT can give you more information. But the same way that we are having difficulty or challenges completely understanding how human brain works, the same way that we may have difficulty understanding, having a total understanding of how the AI works. But I think the most important thing is you have to be aware is that although we have basic understanding of how it works, in terms of how it makes decisions, it's very difficult to understand. But I think we have to continue to ask questions and get more information. So these are the things that you have to know about ChatGPT. So let's go to the next one, which is about how I see ChatGPT. Based on my understanding, based on the limitations, I always want to relate this AI to what I study or what I'm doing as a researcher. So I see the AI tool in three main perspectives. I see it as a research participant. I also see it as a research assistant and research expert. Research participant, research assistant, and research expert. Right. And I'm going to go through all these areas so that you can really understand what I'm saying. So in terms of seeing it as a research participant, just think about it, as a qualitative researcher, you identify participants and you're going to interview them, right? I see them as chatting with research participants because when you are about to interview participants, you have to think about the kind of questions you're going to ask them, right? You have to make sure that the questions that you are asking participants are simple, are conversational in manner, and you ask one question at a time so that you can get rich information from them. The same way concerning ChatGPT, you have to ask simple questions, right? You have to make sure the question that you're asking the system is clear. You have to make sure that you ask maybe one question at a time so that you can get very good response. And also, when you are interviewing participants, you have to be ready to ask follow-up questions. So based on the AI response or based on the AI output that will give you, you can ask further questions. So you can see that the skill that you have in interviewing participants to get all the information that you need, you can transfer that skill when you are communicating with AI too, right? Because you are chatting, you are asking questions. You shouldn't ask leading question. You have to ask a question in such a way that participant will understand it. You have the right to ask further questions. You have the right to repeat the question. You have the right to ask the system to clarify the output. So the same skill that we already developed when you are doing qualitative study, we can move the same skill when we are communicating to the AI too. I think if you think about it this way, it will make your communication with ChatGPT very efficient and you get most out of the communication that you're having with the system. The next one is you have to think about this AI tool as a research assistant. Think about it in case you have a research assistant and you're doing research. What are the roles that you want a research assistant to play? Maybe you want a research assistant to think about the potential topics that you can research on. You want to find out from the research assistant what kind of maybe interview questions that you can come up with. You want to ask the research assistant to look into the potential maybe research approach and the limitations and the strengths. And also any questions that you can ask research assistant, you can ask ChatGPT to get some information. So this means that you are supervising the research assistant. The information they may give you might not be accurate, right? So you have to be verifying the information they are providing. It's the same way when you are communicating with ChatGPT, make sure that you are verifying the information that you are receiving. You can ask them further questions. You can also look into the literature. You can look into using other AI tools and compare the outcome. So treating the system as a research assistant will really be helpful for you to do a quality work in terms of your research. It will save you time. Imagine that you are thinking about the kind of question that you want to ask participants, and you go to ChatGPT. You tell, this is my research question, this is my topic, this is what I want to find out in my study. These are the people that I want to talk to. Can you propose some of the questions that I can ask participants? Based on that, you can get a very good response to start with, right? So it's very important for you to have communication with ChatGPT to get some information from there and be transparent. Let people know how you interact with ChatGPT. And I'm going to talk about the issue of transparency very soon. But what you have to learn now is that you can view ChatGPT as your research assistant. The last one you can do is that you can view the system like your research expert. Imagine that you have met your expert. Maybe you have met me as a methodology expert, right? And you want to know, based on the purpose of my study, what kind of approach should I use? You can ask ChatGPT. You can give information about your study. You can give the information about who you want to talk to or who you want to collect the data from, and find out from the system what kind of research approach will be possible. It's going to be a starting point, right? The system can give you a lot of good information that will help you to look into feasibility of using that kind of approach. So if you can see it as a research expert and ask questions about your research, you can get some information that can be helpful as you are doing your research. Imagine that you have collected your data and you want to analyze. You can submit your data to ChatGPT and ask, okay, based on this research question, can you summarize the data for me? Or based on this research question, can you develop themes for me? Or based on this research question, can you develop themes and also extract significant information to connect to the theme and then present it in a table form? The system can do that for you. Viewing the system as research participant, research assistant, and research expert will help you to use this tool in a very efficient way to save a lot of your time and resources. The last thing that I want to talk about is our role in an AI world. I think one thing that we have to accept is that there's a lot of AI tools that are coming and more will be coming. And we cannot just sit down in a passive way without exploring them and seeing how it can play a role in what we do. As I've heard people saying, AI may not replace your job, but person who have learned more about AI tools can replace your job. As you are doing your work in your efficient way, you have to think about stress. STRES. Think about the role we can play in an AI way. We have to be systematic. We have to be transparent in using AI. We have to be very responsible. We have to be ethical, and we have to be skeptical. So systematic, the same way that you plan when you are about to interview participants, because you want to ask them the right questions. You want to ask them simple questions. You want to ask them questions that will help you to get rich information from them. You have to plan too, right? You can just use any AI tool that are available. You have to make sure that there's a rationale behind you using that AI. Why do I want to use ChatGPT? Why do I want to use any other AI tool? Because maybe you are using it to help you to brainstorm ideas about your topic, or to help you to develop interview questions, or to help you to analyze your data. Have a plan when you are using this software, and so that you use it systematically. When you use it systematically, you know what you are doing. If somebody asks you, what role did AI tool play in your study, you can be able to explain to them how you use the AI. When you explain to them in a meaningful way, the information that you're going to give them will be credible. So that's why you have to be very systematic. You have to document the process, how you use the software, so that you be able to disclose the process to people if they ask you how you use the AI tool to do your work. You have to be transparent. If you use AI to help you to develop your themes, you have to let people know, right? And the good thing about the AI is that you can even share that information with your audience. So let's assume that you have developed themes. Let me click on here and say, as you can see here, I have a conversation with the ChatGPT to first summarize and develop themes. And then I ask the system to create a table and then extract code from the original transcript. And this is what I got. And then if I want to share that information with somebody, I can click on here, right? And you can indicate who is sharing. You can make yourself anonymous, or you can put your information there that you developed this one. I always want to put my information there so that it shows that I had this conversation with the AI tools. And you can copy the link and send it to anybody that you have to send it to for them to see how you communicated with the AI tool. So when the person get a link and go to the website, they will see the input and the output and also the final results. So you can share your AI communication with the person that wants to know. So it's very important that you are transparent. Another benefit of being transparent is to learn about best practice. Imagine that now that I've shown you how I came up with my themes, you can also do the same thing. Imagine I didn't share, you may not know that I use AI too, right? So being transparent will also help the research community to know the best practices, the best way of using this tool so that we all learn together. The next one that you have to think about is being responsible. Use it in a responsible manner. One thing that I have to tell you about is that imagine that you tell the system to develop themes for you, right? And you tell the system to quote from the transcript. Sometimes the system may generate false quotes. The system may generate a quote that is false. So it's very important for you to check before you present your findings. So if I'm presenting this findings to my audience, I've already checked and make sure that this quote is truly from the data, because the system can make up a quote or it can make up any information. So you always have to check and make sure that the information that you are providing to your audience is credible. The next one that you have to think about, you have to be ethical. You have to ensure that there's fairness, honesty, and privacy when using AI tools. A lot of AI tools around, and you have to be very careful, especially if you are using participant data. You have to read about their privacy information, whether they share their information to the third party, whether the system use the data that you are providing to help the AI tool to learn. You have to do all these checks, because at the end of the day, you have to protect participant information. You have to make sure that you have looked into the credibility of the people that develop the AI tool. If you are using it to analyze your data, you have also gone through the results and making sure that everything is accurate. You have to also protect your own information. You always have to be very careful signing up for any AI tool. For OpenAI, they have put in structures that you can use to protect participant information. When you go to your account and you go to settings, you can tell the system that it shouldn't use your data for training the system. Go to data control. You'll be able to tell the system, don't use my data to train. So there are some kind of mechanism put in place to protect participant information, mechanism put in place to protect your information. So you just have to make sure that you have done some kind of background check to make sure that people are using your personal information in a way that is ethical and that will not put your data at risk. The same way we apply ethics when you're doing the research, try to apply the ethical principles when you're using the software. So the last one that I just want to focus on is being skeptical. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be doubtful about what a system can do for you. And that will help you to learn more about what the system does and ask the providers or developers some questions that will help you to know what happened behind the scene. Because if you don't get all this information, then you end up not using it in a way that is ethical, not using a way that will benefit you, but you are using it to benefit those who develop the software. If there's a marketing of a software and they said it's free, you always have to ask yourself, what is in for me? Are they using my information to sell to another company? Are they using my information to perfect their model or perfect their AI tool? So it's very important to ask questions. Ask people, what is the characteristics of this software? What are the limitations? What can help me in terms of using it to do my research? Asking these questions will help you to make a very informed decision. And I do it all the time. I ask myself a lot of questions. So what is in for me? I sometimes look at the videos of how people are using it and see whether it will benefit me. I just don't go and sign up for an AI tool because it's free. I always have to ask these questions because at the end of the day, I have to use it in a way that will benefit me and protect participant information. So that's what I do. If you want more information about using ChatGPT and research, you can email me. If you want me to present in your organization about ChatGPT and research, you can also email me. I also provide consultation concerning research, especially qualitative research. If you're doing a qualitative research and you are thinking about collecting data, analyzing, presenting your finding, thinking about your research question, you can book an appointment with me and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. So these are my books that will be helpful if you are doing qualitative research. If you are doing a phenomenological approach, this book will be very helpful. And our upcoming book, it will be available in September 2023. This one will be very helpful for you if you are doing a dissertation. Right. So these are my information. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to give you a lot of information about ChatGPT and other valuable resources concerning doing qualitative research. And thank you so much for your time.